So today we're going to be continuing to take a look at a scenario where civilization starts over. We're now on episode 69 of the series, nice. And in the previous episode we continued on with World War IV. So if you haven't seen the last couple of episodes about this war, make sure to go check them out before watching this one. Otherwise this is going to make no sense to you. If you guys enjoyed today's video, make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you're new. All the support is greatly appreciated as we're trying to get to 200,000 subscribers. And let's go ahead and jump straight into this video. So last video was very eventful to say the least. The old empire reformed itself. It's back and it is fighting now against the Lime team, helping out India against this rebellion and fighting back against the Gold team, who is at war with pretty much all of Southern Africa. We also saw the Dark Cyan team switch sides and start fighting back against West Africa, which allowed for the Purple team to refocus itself on defeating the Brown team, who at this point has started their large-scale offensive mission. Remember, I did say at the beginning of the war that the Brown team was geared for defense, but they did start mobilizing their offensive forces, and we are seeing that happening right now with excursions into Norway, Poland, which doesn't exist anymore, and the Farmers Union. We're going to be picking up actually with the Purple team, who also is going to be starting a new offensive, this time going into France. The Purple team sees an area of opportunity with a rebellion of the Dark Cyan team against the Parallelogram Alliance. So they slam their forces over into France, cutting France into two pieces once more. Luckily for the Romans, the Northern French did a horrible job at garrisoning in the south, which means that the Purple team basically just walks in here and is met with open arms, so there we go with that. But then they capture the capital of Northern France, which no one expected to happen, not even the Brown team. This is definitely a cause for concern because now the Purple team can kind of just go around and up into this area, meaning that the Brown team will quickly have to reorganize their defensive forces before the Purple team can get around their defenses. Additionally, we see the Purple team start to invade into Iberia, which is their ally, so they are reclaiming and liberating this land. And then they start to send troops and equipment into the Dark Cyan team in order to fight back against West Africa. At this point, the Brown team has completely taken over all of the Danish peninsula from Norway, leaving them up here in Scandinavia. Now moving on over here to India and the Old Empire, we have the Lime team getting absolutely folded. They never expected to fight much of a two-front war. Now, of course, they technically were fighting a two-front war, but that was against Persia and not India. And now that all of the Indian forces have returned from the ocean from their previous attempt to invade the Gold team, they're fighting against a fully mobilized military from India, and that's a lot stronger than even the Old Empire's military at this point. So in a matter of months, we see the complete eradication of the Lime Team rebellion, the Old Empire, and India get rid of it. For now, they'll just occupy this area and figure out what to do with it at the end of the war, but a new operation is about to commence, one against the Gold Team in Africa. The distraction of the Lime Team is gone, and now we have a powerful enemy up north, which is the Old Empire. We've fought against them before. I think the Gold Team actually won against the Old Empire before, but now they're also fighting a fully mobilized and nationalistic India. The victors in this war took pride in defeating the evil rebellion, and now the military is like, oh, let's go get them. So the Old Empire and India will begin to coordinate together a plan to take out the Gold team. Meanwhile, the Gold team will start to push back into Tanzania. This is areas which they had completed previous atrocities in and the South Africans had taken, but now they're going back in. They're also invading a little bit further into this lavender country and are now heading into the Yellow team. But remember, in the last episode, we also saw two new continents get involved in this war. Let's head on down to Australia. We did see Blue Australia join in the last episode. They officially joined the Square Team Alliance, which is the opposing alliance of the Parallelogram Alliance. These are the two main sides of World War IV at this point. And of course, these two nations are very ideologically different. One thing that is for certain though, is that the Red Australian country is very, very much stronger than the Blue Australian country. It wasn't always this way. At first, they were fairly equal, but a large buildup by the Red Team's military has made them a lot stronger, and with this, they start to march towards the Blue Team's capital. Now, of course, the Blue Team didn't join this war just to lose it right away. They joined it in order to fight back against the Fascist Front across the world, so it won't be completely successful for the Red Team, but overall, the Red Team's forces are overwhelming the Blue Team's forces. Another area which we saw get involved was South America. This place is going to be a mess. Fascist Brazil has a ton of communist nations on their borders, from the Pink Team in Peru down over to these two members over here, and even Red Argentina, or I guess Red Chile actually. But they do also have some allies of their own, being this country right here, as well as the Brown country over here. But the fascists knew that this could be coming. I mean, of course, it was obvious. Ideological wars are pretty predictable, you know. If someone has an opposing ideology to you, there's a pretty good chance you're going to go to war. But there is an argument that can be made that the most prepared country for World War IV was Brazil. Their forces had an entire plan drawn up to take out the communist nations in South America long before World War IV even broke out. Very quickly, we see the capturing of the capital of the square team country over here in Peru, and we see special forces start to move into the red team over here. The yellow country will swiftly move on in to this lime country over here, and they stand absolutely no chance. They are folded. This is not a very strong country in the first place. But then the yellow team will decide to invade its southern neighbor, of which they were once united with. This was once an entire country, but now they're fighting a world war against each other, and unfortunately for the southern one, they are being outmatched by their northern foe. Their capital city is obviously captured, and then with the help from the brown team over here in the east, an invasion force is sent in. There's also an invasion force sent into this area of the red team, and South America doesn't look to be going so well for the communists. But at this point in time, in 2023, things have changed. The citizens of the world are not really looking at this as a war of ideologies, communism versus fascism, but more so a war against evil. In this case, the evil is fascism. Now, these communist countries, of course, they're not perfect at all. They're dictatorships in most cases. They're expansionist countries, so on and so forth. But as I've said before, if the democratic nations of the world had to pick one, they would choose communism over fascism. And so, knowing that the fascist bloc has committed atrocities, more specifically the Gold Team, their genocide, their ethnic cleansing, the horrible things that they have done in Africa with bio and chemical weapons. Not only that, but the expansion of the Brown Team, them undermining other nations with the previous organization of states, the general shadiness of the fascist nations in Northern Africa, the genocide that the fascist Green Team had committed, the mishaps of the fascist nations in the HRE. Some democracies are going to step up to the plate and officially join World War IV in the name of defeating this evil ideology. And they won't be just any nation. There's been a country that has been neutral for all too long. A country that has sat back peacefully and watched they have developed themselves. But they know that not only their citizens, but the citizens around the world are not content with the current system. They know that in order to change the world, there's going to have to be military involvement on their part, and not only on their part, but on the part of other democratic nations. A new coalition forms, the Coalition of Democratic Nations. And the leader of this coalition is none other than the Republic of Ireland. Under the banner of a circle, the Coalition of Democratic Nations will make their members known. As I said, their leader being Ireland, but other nations joining such as Finland, Greece, the Gold and Grey teams, the Papua New Guinea country, Borneo, and Sumatra. The tide of the war has officially changed. For the first time in decades, maybe even centuries, Irish troops will start invading another country, this time being the English claim that the Dutch team has on the British Isles. The Dutch could not foresee such an event happening, and in a matter of a few weeks, they are completely kicked out of England. Following this is a military campaign by the Irish to take over all of Iceland, which is successful, and other democratic nations in the coalition begin offering their support to the members of the Square Team. The Gold Team will start to invade into Russia, quickly capturing the capital city of the Blue Country. We also see the Dark Grey Country begin to invade into the claims of the Pink Team with the help of the Gold Team. They take a major city and push towards the former capital of this communist nation. In Oceania, we have the Papua New Guinea country taking over this claim from the Australian country. All while new support from Indonesia allows for the blue communist country to exist for a little bit longer, keeping the red team away from their capital area. In Africa, we finally see the Trapezoid Alliance push back against the Gold Team. The Yellow Team is completely liberated. Followed by them is that of the Lavender Country. And then it finally happens. The Old Empire begins to invade Libya. Old Imperial troops, some of which led by generals that are veterans of World War III, have an insanely successful campaign in northern Egypt, taking a few key major cities away from Libyan control. Tanzania and friends begin to push back against the Gold Team, now reaching up to Lake Victoria and near the Gold Team's official border. And India will once again begin to send their navy out to fight back against the Gold Team. At this point, the Brown Team will make the decision to pull their troops out of Poland, leaving the occupation assignment over to this Russian country over here, so they will now be forced to use their military to keep this area under control. For the most part, the Brown Team will hold on to a little bit of this land, specifically in the capital area, but now they're freeing up troops to use elsewhere, and more than likely to use against the Purple Team, who's had a little bit too much success for their liking recently. So now the Brown Team will push back against the Purple Team, reaching all the way back to their original border, and all of a sudden the Purple Team no longer has any claims in the Brown Team. Over in the Farmers Union, we have them finally being able to push back, taking back two major cities of their own, while we also see them pushing back against the Blue Russians, who at this point are going to go ahead and surrender over to the gold team. Now, with all of the pressure on them, the green Russian country begins to crack. The Farmers Union takes advantage of a very disorganized military of theirs and will start to invade into their former ally of Poland. They take two major cities in the south and coordinate with the gold team in order to start an invasion of the core territory of the green country, nearing their capital city. To make things even worse for the Parallelogram Alliance, the pink team begins to shatter. The dictator that is ruling this country is very unpopular. You know, dictators, their popularity is always hard to gauge because they often rule with fear and the people are scared to speak out against their dictators. But this guy is a certified slimeball. The whole fiasco with the HRE thing, and then, you know, the whole war against the green team and how they were invaded, he's so unpopular that his own government throws him out. Like, the people around him, his like cabinet, they throw him out. He's gone. And they set up a new government. They set up a democratic government in the pink team. And this new democratic government makes a decision. And that decision is to unoccupy all of the yellow team over here and to officially switch sides, leaving the Parallelogram Alliance and joining the coalition of democratic nations. Troops that were just occupying the yellow team are given new orders. Those orders are to head north. So the pink team starts to invade this area from the yellow country, which honestly on paper makes no sense, but the way I explained it, you know, their troops are already there, so it does make sense. But they recapture the capital of this thing, and this green Russian country is like, oh god, because the gold team has captured their capital city. The Farmers Union is just walking right through the territory that they are trying to occupy in Poland, and eventually the green team's military simply just collapses. It's too unorganized and their assignment was much too large. The brown team has plundered this move. They lose complete control of the blue country over here and it reestablishes itself. Apparently it also annexed the pink country right here. I'm not too sure how that happened, but it doesn't matter because now these troops are still marching on, now taking another major city of the green country before the government of this thing is forced to completely surrender. This then forces the brown team to have to reinvade into Poland, retaking all of this land that their allies had failed to control. But unfortunately for them, they're not quick enough. And having enough land to do it, both the square team and the coalition of democratic forces will reset up Poland. Panic begins to ensue in the capital of the Dutch Empire. The European front for the fascists has begun to completely collapse. Quickly, the Dutch will send their military into northern France in order to take control of it, since they are failing miserably. And now, the Dutch team is the only fascist nation in Europe to remain, if we're not counting West Africa, since they're technically an African nation. Speaking of West Africa, their invasion of the Dark Cyan team has gone completely well. They've almost taken all of it, all while still maintaining their garrison over the Iberian country, and now they're feeling a little bit more assured as the Dutch team begins to invade into this French area that the purple team previously occupied. We also see the Dutch team just start to invade the purple team straight up. As I said, they were planning for this. This is kind of like their last move. Not their last move, I don't want to say that, but like, this is what they need to do now. Because at this point, Norway is not attempting to reinvade Denmark. Norway's having a little bit of an internal struggle right now. To be honest with you, the people of Norway have shifted. I previously said that the Norwegians were filled with nationalism and will to fight against the fascists. That pride to fight was definitely messed with when, the whole fascist front began to win the war severely. And then after being kicked out of Denmark, there has been a few stubborn military generals in the Norwegian military who are saying that it's not even worth it. This discontent within the military is heavily affecting the leader of Norway, who is up for re-election around this time. Now, elections during wars are kind of hard to do, especially when you're like directly involved in the conflict. Usually, sometimes the leader of the country will just kind of skip over elections, saying, we're fighting a war right now, so we're just going to do this election thing after we're done fighting the war. I believe that's what happened in Ukraine. But Norway, nonetheless, will carry out its elections. And unfortunately for the leader of Norway, people vote him out. He loses his election very narrowly, but he is replaced by a Democratic candidate, and that candidate makes the decision to officially leave World War IV and withdraw from the Square Team Alliance. They agree with the Dutch to hold their own negotiations following the conclusion of the overall war, and they also agree to allow the Dutch to keep their occupation of Denmark. This doesn't set too lightly with the Purple Team. They won't forget this. Back over in South America, the war that the fascists and the communists are fighting against each other is continuing to go not great for the communists. The Peruvian team is getting absolutely fumbled and tumbled by the Brazilians, and they are just not existing anymore. Simultaneously, while the Peruvian country is toppled, we also see the red team just get messed up by Brazilian forces. Together with their ally in the brown team, the red team is wiped out, which allows the fascists to begin to focus on the remaining communist country that they are at war with, being the red country down here in Chile. But at this point, the fascists have declared their victory in South America. Now heading down to the Horn of Africa, The end of the war appears to be in sight. Finally, South Africa's military alliance is able to fully push back the military of the Gold Team. Additionally, they're able to start to re-establish the Red Team, who had previously been occupied and invaded by the Gold Team. But the main invading force has just arrived. The Old Empire makes a landing in core Gold Team territory, taking 2 major cities. Followed by this is India's landing in the tip of the Horn of Africa and capturing of 2 other major cities. Then we have the Tanzanians invading right back into the Gold Team. The Old Empire begins to launch paratroopers into the outskirts of these major cities along the coast of the Red Sea, followed by a few amphibious invasions which go successful. Then they take over both of these major cities and meet up with the invasion force down south. But zooming in on the front line for a second, something is found on the outskirts of this major city. The Old Empire discovers what they believe to be evidence of nuclear weapons. The world freezes for a second. Does the Gold Team have nuclear weapons? If they do, are they going to use them? Should we keep invading, or should we stop in fear if we take their capital or something? Are they gonna launch a nuclear barrage? I mean, how many nuclear weapons do they have? And then it happens. Multiple silos open up across the Gold Team. These weapons are pointed at India and Tanzania. The hatred that the Gold Team has for this religion, that is the brown religion, is insane. They are their biggest haters, and that is obvious with the atrocities that they have committed. Satellites detect the beginning of nuclear launches across the Gold Team, and the world braces for yet another nuclear impact, and that is exactly what they get. Except the nukes within the Gold Team never launch. All of a sudden, 6 blasts are seen throughout this region of the Gold Team. Their nuclear silos are hit by nuclear bombs, not of their own. Nukes have indeed been dropped, but not by the people that they thought would be dropping them. America is a neutral country. They didn't launch any nukes. Mexico is a neutral country. They didn't launch any nukes, and they don't even have 6. The brown team is insanely anti-nuclear. They wouldn't launch their nukes. China, same thing. Neutral and extremely anti-nuclear. They wouldn't launch their nukes either. So with that in mind, there's only one nation that remains with nuclear bombs, or at least one nation that did have nuclear bombs, and that is none other than the country of West Africa, who unloaded the remainder of their nuclear stockpile into their own ally, being the Gold Team. The leader of West Africa will appear before the world and declare that the West African nation is leaving the war. Not only is the West African nation leaving the war, but he is resigning. He is done. The world is shocked. The leader of one of the most powerful nations in the world has just stepped down without reason. Not only has he stepped down, but he just, fired a magazine into his own friend, but he gives no explanation. That's it. The West Africans simply withdraw from the war. They leave the Parallelogram Alliance, pull all military forces out of the Dark Cyan team and Iberian team, and leaves it all behind. In the days following this event, we see the capitulation of the Red Team in South America. The Square Team has lost all ground in this continent as the fascists are victorious. The Gold Team, having its one and only last resort destroyed, will now be forced to fight a conventional war against the Old Empire in India, as well as South Africa and any other participating democratic country, without the help of West Africa, their former ally. The government of Libya is absolutely terrified. The government of the Purple Team is absolutely terrified. What they once thought was a safe alliance for them to prosper without any interference from foreign nations like the Old Empire, for example, has now suddenly just collapsed. They now have to rely on the Gold Team for their survival, and the Gold Team doesn't look like they're doing so good. Quickly, the Gold Team will start to unleash its bio and chemical weapons on the invading forces that are coming after it, which will force the Old Empire in India to stop their invasions. What it will also do is have severe consequences as Tibet joins the coalition of democratic nations, and reluctantly enough, so does China. With China now entered into the war, things are about to change greatly for the Gold Team. The Gold Team has crossed many lines, and they have crossed too many lines. China will meet with other nations in the Democratic Coalition as well as other nations within the Square Team, and a decision will be made. The Gold Team shall be turned into a barren wasteland of nuclear radiation. In July of 2024, 20 nuclear bombs will begin to be dropped on the Gold Team on each of their major cities. Following the end of the nuclear attack, the Gold Team's infrastructure is completely destroyed, their military is crippled, and their leader is dead, killed by a nuclear blast. The country that launched these nukes was none other than China. China is a nation that we're going to have a conversation about following this episode, but they agreed to empty out 2/3 of their nuclear stock in the name of not only defeating fascism, but defeating the evil humans that exist within the Gold Team. Over the next few months, the old empire and India will work together to invade into this country and defeat any military forces that still exist. Following the nuclear attacks carried out by China, we have the unconditional surrender of both Libya and the Purple Team, and the puppet defies its master as the puppet state of the Gold Team also surrenders, technically breaking away from the Gold Team and forming its own country, only to surrender over to the Square Team, and more specifically the Old Empire, who will be charged with occupying this area until the end of World War IV. The Red Team's able to take back all of its land, and together we have the Square Team, the Coalition of Democratic Nations, and the Trapezoid Alliance working together to take out the remainder of the Gold Team. A few days before its official collapse, we have the Green Team surrendering. They become occupied by the Trapezoid Alliance. But as for the rest of the Gold Team, the Old Empire will eventually clean them up. And of course, you know, I do want to say real quick, it isn't only the Old Empire taking over this big chunk of Africa. That would be impossible. They just formed a new union. I don't think they're organized for that. So this is also India helping them out, as well as the Trapezoid Alliance and other members of both the Square Team and the Coalition of Democratic Nations. The evil in Africa has been defeated. The Gold Team is no more. At this point, World War IV is being fought by only a few remaining fascist nations. We have the three in South America, the one over here in Oceania, and the old Dutch Empire. At this point, the Dutch know that there is nothing they can do. It will be only a matter of time before they're overrun by the Democratic and Square Team forces, but they decide to try their luck and fight. The Purple Team will give over control of the occupation to the Iberians over here, so they get control over southern France, which allows for the Purple Team to reuse those forces in order to push back the Brown Team's invasion. January of 2025, the Polish country is completely liberated by Square Team forces. February of 2025, the Purple Team starts its invasion of the Brown Team with the intent to finish the war. March 2025, the Farmers Union and Poland both start their invasion into the Brown Team. At this point in the war, the Brown Team is not resisting very well, and their forces are forced to fall back towards the capital city. April 2025, the Irish land in Brittany and take over all of France. May 2025, the anti-fascist forces, as they are now known under one united alliance, start a rapid invasion into the Dutch team. Purple Team and Ireland are the main contributors to this invasion, but of course they are receiving help from both the Farmers Union, Poland, and every other nation involved in this now united alliance. Eventually, the Republic of Denmark declares its independence from the Brown Team, and on June 14th, 2025, the boots of foreign troops march into the city that is the capital of the Dutch Empire and take it. The dictator of the Brown Team agrees to surrender, and the Dutch Empire has fallen. With the leader of the fascist world now gone, and the world rightfully exhausted from such a drawn-out conflict, an agreement is made with the remaining fascist nations. We will allow for your existence in the continents where you are. However, you will have no say in the fate of the Afro-Eurasian world. Brazil gets this agreement, and they're like, huh, yeah, we're signing this. Brazil and their allies will leave the war. They'll leave the Parallelogram Alliance and will settle down terms with the communists at a later date. The Australians are a little bit more reluctant. Their war hasn't been going on for very long, but they do recognize that the forces they're fighting against, which at this point is a majority of the world, would soon overwhelm them. So Red Australia also agrees to leave the war and agrees to meet with the Blue Team in order to work out a peace deal. The anti-fascist bloc has won World War IV, and that is the conclusion of World War IV, or as I like to call it, the War of Absolutes. Fascism has been defeated, but not just fascism. Evil has been defeated. More specifically, the Gold Team is gone. They were lit up like a Christmas tree for a good reason. As you can see, this is not what this used to look like. Anyway, that is going to do it for today's video. I know I don't usually do the peace treaties at the end of the wars because the peace treaties would take me probably an hour to do, and I'm not really ready to do the peace treaty as of right now. I just recorded all of World War IV in one sitting, and honestly, I like this war. It was good. I hope you guys did enjoy it as well. I'm probably going to be doing a Q&A stream pretty soon, similar to how I did a Q&A stream, I think, after the War of Greats. But the peace treaty video will be coming out next Saturday. That will be episode 70 of Wixo. That's insane. And this is also the last video of Daily Upload Week. So I hope you guys did enjoy Daily Upload Week. It was, well, I haven't actually done the other videos other than the Wixo videos yet, so I'm not sure how it was for me yet. Hopefully it was fine. But I really hope you guys enjoyed the War of Absolutes. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. I know that this video is being premiered, so hello, live chat. And yeah, thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed, show some support, and I'll see you all in the next video. And of course, thank you to all our super fans. This includes Serminator, IC Static FN, CTG on YT, Ixco, Euroball, Augusto, A Norwegian, RS, Gail Martinez, America and Canada and UK, Zaylance, the leader of the AZO, Freezioi, Laser Taze, Pablo Sigma Cat, Death Strider X, Hammer Toad 45, and of course, DW Cool Dude. Once again, thank you guys.